Hi guys, hi everyone, my name's Simon, welcome to the channel. We're in the middle of one of our love stories, Broken. This must be episode 6. Main character Martin, lovable taxi driver from the UK, one of my best friends. Just had a month in Thailand, his first trip. There's me managing a bar in Soi 7, and he's worked hard for the last 6 months, got himself a good chunk of money. He's landed back in Thailand for a month's holiday, a couple of nights in Bangkok, had a close encounter with a ladyboy, and he's now en route to my bar back in Pattaya. It was great to see him when he arrived. I was really happy. My barmaid, tomboy Anne, wasn't too keen to see him after what had happened between them last time. That was episode 1, I think. But the rest of the girls were happy to see him, and they knew he was my friend, so they treated him great respect and fun. In fact, they teased him a lot. And he'd arrived back, same old rucksack, not too much stuff. He tended to buy clothes. He lived in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, so he just kept buying t-shirts and throwing them away, or not even washing them, giving them to girls. So he didn't have a huge amount of clothes with him. Didn't need it. And he arrived. It was great to see him. And I'd said to him, had he been in touch, because back then this was like what, 99, 2000. The internet was about, but it was more about forums and not so much like we have these days, instant messenger and stuff. It wasn't quite the same. But he had tried to talk to some of the girls that he'd met. He'd managed to get emails, but no success. And after you get back to Thailand for your second visit, you are itching normally to either go back to wherever your favourite girl you met was, where they were working before, or go to a favourite bar to catch up with people that from your last trip. It's a buzz, and if you've got a girlfriend, you're itching to get straight to see your girlfriend. Which surprised me a bit, he actually said the one person he missed and wanted to see wasn't the Soi 6 bars and girls, it was that girl bar. The one that he'd only spent a night with. We started off with 2 girls, Bar and you, thrown you out, but he spent the night with Bar, and then he couldn't check out because she wouldn't get out of the room and was lifted out of the room by the security boys. And he said that was the girl that he really wanted to see. I was totally surprised about that. I did not see that coming. I mean, she is a beautiful girl, beautiful woman, stunning, and but she was crazy. I'd met her many times before and seen her in that bar and the other girls, and I'd seen her go off on one quite a few times, as in shouting and screaming at customers and people and other girls. She was a fiery girl, and she did not like being mucked about in any way. She also was a real night bird. From what I can remember, she'd start work at 8 and she'd finish at even 7, 8 in the morning. If she hadn't been taken out of the bar, she'd still be there. scratching around for lady drinks, and quite a lot of foreigners used to stay up that end of town. At the top of Second Road, they maybe stayed in Acklua, up by Dolphin Roundabout, and when they were walking home late, drunk, they'd quite often be in those bars on the way home, and it was a night. They were really good late night bars. But she was a bit mad. He dropped his stuff, Martin, at the bar, and I'd already arranged that if he wanted his room back again from before, he could have it. But he actually said no. He'd found a place that a good friend of his stays at. I don't know the name of the hotel. I know it was in the road which was called Score Beach. Was it spelled S-K-A-E-W or E-A-W? It was along Second Road, in the middle of Second Road, sort of halfway along, on the other side of Second Road. It was at that point a cul-de-sac, and there was just some fields behind it. But there were 3 or 4 little guest house hotels on that road. Anyway, he said he'd found his mate stayed there, and he was going to go there and stay there for this holiday. Price was right, it was cheap. It was about $500-600 a night, and he felt that that was nearer to the action. Okay. Policeman with a speed radar gun. Luckily, I'm only doing 105 kilometers an hour. So he stayed for a bit with me, and we had a few drinks. I think it was soft drinks as well, to be honest. And then he said, right, he was going off to his hotel to check in. Must have been after lunch by this time. And that he was going to have a wander around, get some food, and then go try and find that girl. Well, I said to him, you won't find her till after 8 o'clock at night. It just won't happen. And it's just off the plane. Well, a couple of days in Bangkok, but he's just arrived in Pattaya. So off he went, and by all accounts, check-in was fine. And he'd gone out and about, and sure enough, she wasn't around. He'd gone to her bar at about 3-4 in the afternoon, and there was only one girl and a cashier there, and they didn't know who the hell he was or what he was on about. So he headed just down the road a bit to Soy 6, and yep, you guess it, he got in there to his favourite bars, but he didn't touch the Lao Cow. His doctor back in the UK had warned him, stay off hard liquor, just drink beers if you're going to drink, and even non-alcoholic ones. Well, so he just had a few beers, and I had a feeling he might have had an encounter with Spider Woman that afternoon, or somewhere in Soy 6. Come the evening, he was still there, gone off and got himself some food. I think at the bar at the top of Soy 6, where it's Second Road. There was some place there that did food. And then about 8 o'clock, he headed off to the bar where bar works. He walked in, and you was sat there, but no bar. You recognised him straight away and immediately got a lady drink off him and said that bar was not about. She was, in her words, she'd gone home for a few days. That's code for sorry, she's with another Farang on a trip away. And the fact she said a few days usually is about right. If it's if she's away and being taken out of a bar for a week or two, they would say, oh, someone's ill in the village and she's up there for a few weeks. That was the common answers. We even did that in our bar though, Mama Son. If girls were out, customers would just say they're at home for a few days or a few weeks. Well, poor old Martin built his hopes up to see bar that night, and all he got was talking to you. He couldn't take her, because if he did want to be friends with bar again, that would end that. So he left the bar and went back, had a really early night. About 10 in the morning, came down, I was just up, and usual breakfast. Told me all about what happened. I kept saying to him that I knew this girl bar and I'd seen her many times in the beer bar, and that she was quite vocal, and I didn't think she was the best woman for him if he wanted to be get serious. And I had a sneaky feeling that he didn't want to get serious, but he wanted someone to take him around Thailand. He wanted a tour guide that he could have a bit of fun with. But a girl like that, who drinks a lot and whatever else, can be quite expensive. And he's taken her out of a beer bar. It's going to cost him in the bar fines and things. So that's not the cheapest way of doing it, to get yourself a tour guide. But he said that he thought him and her would really get on well, and he really just got her in his head. Fair enough. And where are you going to go? And we sat for the next few days. She wasn't around. He just went all over Pattaya, bars everywhere, different streets, just going around, getting his bearings. And I did introduce him the one night to the Bamboo Bar, which is next to the entrance of Walking Street. Freelancer bar. Used to be great in the old days, that place. Don't know about today. And he actually had a couple of nights there and had good fun as well. Met himself a few part-time aerobics instructors there. Bar didn't show up for a week, and I could see this was eating him away. He was cheesed off. But eventually she turned back up, and she would have been greeted by you and the other girls saying that a Farang had kept coming to see her and she wasn't there. Immediately she was in the position that she knew a Farang was keen on her, but she couldn't remember totally what he looked like and who he was, even though she'd had a bad experience with him being thrown out of her room. She was eating, drinking, taking many different substances. Her memory must have been shot. The night came, and sure enough, Martin turned up at about 9 o'clock and walked in, and there she was, looking as stunning as ever, in a really revealing outfit. And he immediately went up to her, and she recognised him. When he was stood in front of her, she knew immediately. And you'd think the normal reaction would be that she'd throw her arms around him. She only spent a night with him, but to get him and happy, she would throw her arms around him and give him a big cuddle and ask for a lady drink. But no, she went off on one, shouting at him and screaming, giving him some real grief. I knew she was like that. She gave him grief because those boys had lifted her out of the bed, chucked her into the hallway naked outside the room he was staying, and locked the door and just left her there. And she hadn't forgot that. She gave him grief, and he just took it. By all accounts, he just said, I let her go off on one. And after he didn't say anything or react, she stopped shouting and then actually smiled at him. And then he bought her a drink. Absolutely potty woman. Potty. He before said he didn't like paying for aerobics and said it wasn't in his DNA. But here he felt comfortable. He immediately, when I told him about ways people get girls and pay them for whatever they want to call it, pay a girl for 24 hours as a tour guide, translator, with aerobics thrown in, he seemed to have got his mind around, that's okay. If I pay her for being a tour guide, I can live with that. Well, it's just how you put it in your brain, how you deal with it. He actually paid the bar pretty quickly after a couple of drinks, paid the bar fine. Back then it was about 300 baht for those type of bars, and took her out. And all he wanted to do that night was learn about aerobics. So he took her straight back to his hotel and they had a night together. Next morning, to my surprise, at about 10 o'clock, it's rare to see a bar girl in the mornings at that time, unless they're doing the walk of shame. He turned up at my bar 10:30 and with bar. Of course she knew me. She knew me, so, but she'd never been into where I worked in Soy 7. So she was quite impressed with it, and compared to where she worked. In those days, the bar, Soy 7 R bar, was clean and tidy, and it was really nice. We had a full-time cleaner, so it was great. And he then said to me that he was going to wander off for a week or two and take bar with him. But how could he do it? Did he have to pay the bar fine? Did he have to pay her? And all these questions. And she sat there. She had worked in that particular beer bar for years. She's one of the girls that got a bar that she was happy with. She stuck with it because all her customers would come back and know she's still there. She also never had her mobile phone number. One of the few things that help the bar girls get future customers and repeat customers is keeping their same phone number. And she'd had the same phone number for years and worked in the same bar for years. So she knew the boss inside out. Normally, if somebody took a girl from their employment for a week, they would have to pay the bar fine for each day and then negotiate with the girl directly for a salary while they're away. And I explained all this to him. He said to Bar that rather than pay the bar all this money, he'd rather give her the money. Well, she gets a cut anyway, but she wasn't having it. She'd only met him, she'd only been with him 2 nights. He wasn't a cheap Charlie, but he'd rather spend money on a girl than pay bars, and he was happy to buy lady drinks. She wouldn't have it. She said, look, to my friend, the boss, you've got to pay. And it was 300 baht a day, a week, 2,000 baht, whatever, 2,100 baht. And he said, okay, there's no way around it. I want to take her away. So he'd worked hard, he'd got plenty of money in his pocket. He said, let's do it. I'll pay your bar. And he wanted to head to Koh Samet and possibly Koh Chang, just south of Pattaya. He'd already thought about that. We chatted about it, saying what was good areas and all the rest of it. So they made it happen. He gave up his room in the hotel because he just paid one night at a time there. And she went off to her room to get her stuff packed, take the money and pay the bar. And they arranged to meet back at my bar. He came back first and asked if he could leave his bag and stuff at my bar while he was away, and just take a smaller amount with him. So I said no problem. And then she turned up maybe an hour later, dressed up in a pair of jeans, looking smart. And this must have been in the afternoon, mid-afternoon. And they were heading off. They were going to get a bus and head down to Koh Samet. I don't know what the ferry times were and stuff, but I don't think they made it down there that evening. They had to stay on the mainland. I don't think there was as many ferries at the time, or maybe it closed at a set time, but they didn't get across that evening. They got down there. But the next morning they were on Koh Samet. And he's with Bar. And he's paid all that money for the bar fine. Bless. Pretty normal stuff. Well, again, I'm not leaving you with a cliffhanger today, guys. I've gone on a few more minutes than I normally do. I'm enjoying this story, and I'm just approaching Charam as we speak. So another half an hour's driving, just to get sausages and bread. Bless. I'll see you on the next video. Take care, be good, and have a safe one.